Unlike Silent Hill 2, where there are important parallels between the supporting characters and the main character, in Silent Hill 3, the supporting characters help to fill in the backstory of the main character. So I'm gonna have to break tradition and talk about Heather first, otherwise it'll be hard to make sense out of the other characters. This is your last chance to turn back. Tell him, Johnny Smith.
Still time!
Thank you. You really don't know anything about the main character going into Silent Hill 3. She just seems like some random girl in a mall.
I love you too, Dad.
But then...
Heather, I need to speak with you. My name is Douglas Cartland. I'm a detective.
A detective? Really? Well, nice talking to you.
Now that's kind of an odd reaction, isn't it? If a detective sought you out with information about your past, even if you wouldn't want to know, wouldn't you at least be curious enough to hear him out? I guess Heather could see him as a potential predator or something.
My daddy always told me not to talk to strangers.
This is very important. It's about your birth.
But it seems like this would be a pretty elaborate way to get somebody's attention. Maybe it's just me.
Are you still following me? Do I have to scream?
She makes it a point to get away from him, and it's not long before, in typical Silent Hill fashion, she finds herself alone. Well, not completely alone.
Get the hell away from me!
By the way, I'll admit that I'm not totally enamored with the monster designs in Silent Hill 3. Some of them seem a little too random and abstract, even for a Silent Hill game. I cannot for the life of me figure out what the deal is with the closers, aside from being very similar to the mandarins from Silent Hill 2, only above ground. The only theory I can find on the internet is teddy bears. I don't see it. Oh, and I hate them. They're huge, hard to kill, hard to run past, especially in tight corridors. But the rest of the monsters do, at least, imply some things about Heather. You'll understand the significance in a little while. A lot of the monster designs imply dual personalities, like these dog-like creatures that are split down the middle and held together with bandages. Then there are the Pendulums, which I hate with a passion. You can always hear them coming because they make a noise that sounds like someone perpetually beating a cat to death with a bagpipe. They look insectile at first glance, but upon closer inspection, it almost looks like two human torsos fused together with a head at each end. Insane cancers seem to symbolize sickness and or pregnancy. They're easy to avoid, but I prefer to beat the crap out of them because I get a kick out of seeing them deflate afterwards. And of course there are nurses. I don't really have much to say about them, except thank God they don't look like the nurses in Silent Hill 2. And the movie. And Silent Hill Origins. And Silent Hill Homecoming. Yeah. And finally is the Numbody. Easily the least scary, weakest, and most inept monsters, and I use that term loosely, in the game. I seriously get happy when these things show up because I love bludgeoning them. Plus they're just funny. There are some pretty cool bosses, including some demonic carousel horses who look like they have hooks through them. And my favorite, the Split. It's very similar to the Split Head boss from the first game, only pretty phallic looking. Believe it or not, I once beat this monster with a steel pipe. I don't know how the hell I did it. Trial and error, I guess. Anyway, Heather has an interesting time getting home. From the mall, she goes to the subway station, gets stuck in a random subway that drops her off at some underground area, which leads to the sewer, that leads to a construction site, that leads to an unfinished office building, and from there she finally makes it home. I like to think this happens to her every time she leaves the mall. Can you imagine that? Be home by 4, Heather. Sorry, Dad, you should have told me sooner. They closed down the 3rd floor of the unfinished building. By the time I find something to hold the elevator doors open with and climb down a rope, it'll be at least 5. Okay, I'm easily amused. Along the way, she meets two unusual people who seem to know more about her than she does.
And your true self as well.
I know about your past, too.
Then tell me what's going on.
You don't know even that?
That's why I'm asking. Dad, I'm home.
When Heather finally gets home, she
Listen,
starts to
something
relax,
really
probably
crazy's
thinking that
going
everything
on.
is okay now
I
that
think
she's
we
with her
should-
dad again.
Dad? Dad?
But this is a Silent Hill game, so...
No!
Now, if you've played the first Silent Hill game and you've been paying attention, there are a lot of interesting clues that link Silent Hill 3 to the first game.
It's being invaded by the other world, by a world of someone's nightmarish delusions come to life.
So Harry didn't tell you anything.
But the most obvious one is the fact that the dead body of Heather's dad bears a striking resemblance to someone we've seen before. Yep, it's good old Harry Mason. And we learned some interesting things about him in this game. 5 years after the events of Silent Hill, Harry had another run-in with the cult that ended with him killing a cult member to save his daughter and himself. Wow, go Harry! Who knew he had it in him? And there's a lot more I could say, but I'll save it for later. So they simultaneously reveal that he's awesome and kill him off? Not to mention that he totally got shafted in the movie. Yeah, I've heard the reasons. I did my homework, and I'm not buying it. There is no justice in the world. Now, at the time I'm making this video, Silent Hill Shattered Memories, the reimagining of the original Silent Hill game, has not come out yet. I'm not super enthusiastic about it, but I reserve judgment for now. I have no idea if we'll finally be able to see Harry in a good light while he's still alive. All I can say is that, for better or for worse, he looks pretty geeky. But at least they didn't give him a sex change this time. Originally, Harry was to be named Humbert. What? Well, it's a reference to the protagonist in Stanley Kubrick's film Lolita. By the way, the actor that played that character was named, get this, James Mason. No way in hell is that a coincidence. But in the end, they decided that the name was a little too weird and unappealing to use, so they named him after the guy who came up with the name in the first place. Fair trade-off, I guess.